All right, so first things first, I want to talk about the sanctions myth. Now, what is the sanctions myth? Now, the myth, and you don't have to be familiar with it for the myth to be a thing, is that sanctions is better than regular war because, sanctions, we don't have to have our own people there and our people aren't dying and we're very far away from it and we don't see the bodies come back. And sanctions just feels like a good, wholesome way to tell a country, hey, naughty, naughty, we don't like what you're doing, but also we're not invading you. So, like, compromise. The problem is sanctions can actually do a lot more damage than individual military engagements. And part of this is because when you sanction a country's money, you essentially stop them from getting whatever it might be that they need. So if a country is, for example, reliant on external medicine, as many countries are. Most countries are not in the business of producing their own medicine. They're getting medicine from places like the US or Europe, sometimes places in Africa, Cuba. But if you are sanctioned and essentially a country says, we're going to punish you if you send medicine to this country, what happens? That country no longer gets medicine, and anyone who needs that medicine dies, right? Or gets so sick they can't function, or whatever else it is, right? So sanctions can actually be very difficult. Also, sanctions can essentially shut down an economy, and that causes the value of that currency's worth to go down. It can cause people not to be able to deal with any emergencies that come up. They might not be able to buy food. Also, sanctions tend to increase civil unrest because of the effects that they have. And so, one of the things that we don't really think about when we put sanctions on a country is that oftentimes the people who get hurt are the people, like the regular Joes and Janes of a country, as opposed to the leadership. Oftentimes the leadership is insulated from the types of harms that sanctions can provide. But regular people don't really have that. And if they are relying on external sources of currency, or the currency of the country is tied to the dollar, which a lot of countries are, or anything like that, where a country has said, hey, I'm going to stop money going to your country, or I'm going to stop medicine, or I'm going to create a trade embargo, or whatever, that can cause civil unrest. Civil unrest can often be fatal for the people who are engaging in civil unrest. We've seen that at home, but also it's very prevalent abroad, for a number of reasons. Even if the response is not necessarily violent from the state, you can be in a situation where people are dying, even if the state response is not particularly violent. So all this is to say that when we think about sanctions, when we think about sanctioning a country and what that means, we should really think more holistically in terms of what is it that the sanctions are doing? What harm are they imposing, and who does that harm affect, right? If we don't like the behavior of a country, it makes sense to want to punish that country, and we don't necessarily have to invade all the people we don't like. In fact, I'm a peacenik myself. I think we should not be invading all the countries that we don't like. I also think that we should probably dislike fewer countries, but that's all aside. But the thing is, we think of sanctions as this kind of hands-free, blood-free way to get a country to do what you want to do. And as I mentioned before, that's false. One, because the people who are in power, who are making the decisions, are often insulated from the problem. But two, it's not bloodless. It can cause a lot of pain and suffering, and it can kill lots of people depending on the types of things that government has to bring in or ship out. Speaking of shipping out, if a country's primary method of generating income for the country and its citizens is to export things, and then all of a sudden there's a trade embargo or sanctions on the country or the country's goods, you can collapse the economy that way too. Just something I didn't mention earlier. So anyway, that is the myth of sanctions. Hopefully we've debunked it. And when you think about how the United States engages with other countries, or how any country engages with other countries, just remember that sanctions aren't peaceful. They are equally violent as an invasion. They're just violent in a different way, and often a way that's hidden from the population of the country who is doing the sanctioning. And that's partly why we've been fed this delusion about sanctions, because it looks nicer and cleaner for the citizenry of the country that's doing the sanctioning, but obviously it does not look that way for the country being sanctioned.
Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you liked it, throw a like on it, share with your friends, and subscribe for more of our content. You can also find all of our videos and clips on youtube.com Just search Let Them Eat Bread and you'll find all of our content. Alright, guys, see you next time. Bye for now.